Geoff!
What's going on?
I'm like killing ants here.
You got an ant problem?
We've had an ant problem all summer long. And it's mostly bothered Rachel, but so she's bothered steadily throughout the summer, right? Wakes up, fights ants, kind of maintains a steady hatred for ants. Whereas me, I explode. I'm it's not a big deal. Infested by ants, we could deal with it. We live in an ant hill here in Southern Orange County. But then it affects me, which is I guess that's how selfish I am.
Right.
Then it bugs me. I just lose it. I'm just ants. So I've littered my entire garage here with ant spray. What are you drinking right there?
A mango White Claw.
Nice. I need to start drinking White Claws because every time people have been drinking White Claw around me, it's been I've been in the middle of getting migraines or I've been driving or something like that. So I haven't really been drinking them. So I need to try them out. I got my raspberry lemonade and Jim Beam.
Oh, Jim Beam. Nice. Yeah.
It's kind of like a whiskey sour, right?
Huh?
Whiskey sour, kind of raspberry lemonade, Jim Beam.
Yeah.
Close enough, yeah.
Maybe a little more of a whiskey sweet.
Yeah, that's me.
Now the White Claw though, when it's hot like this, because they taste like water.
Yeah.
But they're 5%, so they sneak up on you.
Well, that's good.
So it's refreshing, and then you get that good buzz.
That's not bad at all. Not bad at all. So how's the week? How's things been?
Been good.
Yeah.
We today we just did the back to school for Rand over the Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
This is the very first time anybody's explained to us what they're going to be actually using.
Okay.
And how it's going to work. And he starts class tomorrow.
Okay.
So.
Well, you guys are responsible. You went to the meeting before school started. We blew that one off.
Well, I figured you know what's going on, right? I mean, how things are going to work a little bit.
A little bit. A little bit.
I feel sorry.
I want to wear a shirt that says, "I don't know, let me figure it out."
Well, that's what I told Stacey. I was like, I don't know anything. That's, I'm horrible with computers. I was horrible in school, so
I was right now.
Now we're throwing those two things together.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to help this kid at all.
What's your teacher using? Are they using Seesaw?
No, it's some Clever.
Okay.
And then Bixby or Bixel.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's some meeting app, kind of like Zoom or Google Meet.
Okay.
That they gave them their own Gmail account. Okay. Sort of. It's not a Gmail account, but it's some sort of email account that signs into everything.
Yeah.
And again, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's a dormant email account that allows you to sign stuff in. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be a learning experience for all of us.
You know what? I mean, kids are built to learn. Really, they really are. I've been working with Caleb on writing, first grade, and I'm actually really impressed how good he's done lately because he's grown from kindergarten to first grade. I mean, by no means is he head of the class or that kid that's reading by first grade, at the beginning of first grade. That's not him, but we've been playing games while we write. He'll have to write a sentence. And so I'll tell him what does he want to say, and then we'll play Hangman, a Hangman type game to figure out how to spell the words and stuff like that. What letter do you hear? You hear an N. Okay, that's an N. But he's been doing pretty good. And I don't think it has anything to do with anything me or Rachel has done as much as just kids are built to learn. They figure things out. So the kids will be all right.
Yeah, the writing.
Out.
Yeah, the writing thing is what's tough for Rayan, I think.
That's normal.
Yeah, he can read now. He still has trouble making out bigger words and stuff, but the writing, like none of his letters are the same size.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But I figure at second grade, how much is he really supposed to be able to do that?
Mm-hmm.
And then with the way technology's going, everything's going to be on a keyboard or typing, or he may never have to write his name in his life.
I mean, Stephen Hawking could type just by staring at a screen. I'm pretty sure that by the time Rayan and Caleb are like our age, they're going to be like typing, like telegraphing, like, Morse code. What the heck? Why do I need to know the Morse code? For them, it's going to be like, I don't need to type. I don't need to drive. I don't even need to spell. They're going to, it's all done for them by then.
Well, Elon Musk wants to do that Neuralink. He puts a chip inside your brain and you're connected to the internet.
No, that's where I'm going to say, no, I don't need the internet sucking my brain thoughts into them.
That may come more into next week's episode.
We'll talk about that at the end of the show, though.
Yep.
Yeah. So you got Rayan getting going and stuff like that. That's kind of the same here. We're getting school going. The kids off to a good start, all three of them, and we're getting our rhythm and our flow and how to get things done, and when to say we're not going to do this, we're going to skip that so that we can save our brain power and stuff like that. Going to the beaches on Wednesday nights to kind of stay sane and stuff like that. So kind of same.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. We had our car breakdown though this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
you had to call a mechanic?
No, I did it myself, which is like not good because it's not even fixed yet. Like we're driving around with the Suburban, it's not even fixed. So apparently, your shifter that you pull up and down in the car is got this long metal piece that goes all the way into your bottom of your car, and it attaches to a 4-inch piece of metal that's really thin, and it's called a shift linkage lever. And the shift linkage lever has a little small 1-inch piece of plastic bushing that basically holds that whole system into place, which I love when you find out that this multi-$1,000 piece of equipment is put together by one piece of plastic that kind of holds it all together. It like comes down.
Half-a-cent piece.
Huh?
Yeah. A half-a-cent piece of plastic.
Yeah, so that thing broke. And so we get done surfing, and I go to put the car in gear, and the shifter is going up and down like it's not connected to anything. It's like free falling. And I'm like, oh, shoot, uh-oh. So, like, my first instinct is take the car apart. So my wife is, like, more patient. She's like, well, let me take out my phone because we own the world of knowledge in our phone. And she's Googling shifty thingy not working or whatever she Googled. And I'm, like, ripping the panel apart, and I'm breaking stuff as I go, and I'm throwing things in the back, and I'm, like, trying my best not to cuss. And I'm freaking out. And then she's like, okay, well, watch this video. She hits play. And we watch like this 30-second video where this guy's like, well, if you do this and do this, it works. So my wife jumped in the driver's seat with the car on, and I climb underneath the car, and I find out you can actually shift your car from underneath your car. Did you know that?
I did not. I never had the need to.
Well, yeah, like imagine what we had done in high school if we knew this information. So I climb underneath the car, and I find where the big metal piece from the shifter connects, and it's fallen off of this small linkage lever that connects to the transmission. And I basically just put the hoop on the pin, even though part of it was broken, and I just held it into place while Rachel shifted it into drive. Which is like why, whenever you get those life insurance packets in the mail, yeah. I never sign up for those. I always throw them away because I could imagine, I don't want to give my wife that kind of pressure. Think about like, she's like, I could just put it in drive. I could just let my foot off the brake right here and just. She'd
be a rich woman.
Yeah, and someone would create a GoFundMe page for her, and she'd get the insurance money. She'd get the GoFundMe. Her and my kids would be set for life. So, I kept it easy for her. I don't have any good life insurance like that, so she knows she has to try to keep me alive.
I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed that you think, I mean, yeah, we've got that piece of equipment in our pocket that gives all the knowledge in the world. But I remember in high school when I was walking to class, leaving my house, and you pull up in your what was it, like an 89 Ford Ranger.
Uh-huh.
The driver door is not closed. And you get out and you're like, hey, yeah, I backed out of my garage with the door open and the door bent the wrong way. And you're like, you think you can fix it? I'm looking at it like, yeah, you got a tie strap? We'll just hold it shut.
Yeah, I think we just tied it for that day, yeah.
But I will never forget you pulling up as I'm starting to walk to class and going, why is Geoff's driver door still open?
Yeah, I drove all the way from my house to your house, like 5 miles.
Yeah, that's a good 5 miles.
Holding the door shut, trying to hold the door shut.
And I think all we did was we got a tie-down strap and went from door to door, got you in the car, tightened it up, and said, yeah, it'll be good till you get home.
Yeah. I don't remember how I explained that to my parents when they got home from whatever trip they were on that time, but it was like, hey, I don't know why doors fall off. It happens, you know. I can't wait till my kids tell me stupid things.
It's one of those things.
Yeah, scientists are trying to figure this out. I don't know. Yeah, so we got our car right now. It's working. It's just, you know, when you drive, is it going to fall off that little piece? So I of course called Chevy. They're like, yeah, it'll be like $300. And then I look on Amazon, it's like $25. So we'll see.
Yeah.
See what happens.
The dealer's gonna get you for all everything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it does shift right now then. Like you're driving it day to day.
Yeah,
it
does
get
shift.
Underneath and.
No, yeah. Well, today I had to go in and put it back on, but that had been like almost a week since it happened. So yeah, I don't know. It's like it's on for now, and then every once in a while it might bounce off, and you just I showed Sadie how to do it because my wife had to take the kids, Sadie, Caleb, and Raylan, to swim lessons because I took Michaela to soccer. So knowing that my wife was going to be alone, so I was like, 9-year-old, come here. I'm going to show you how to climb under this car and fix it in case you and mommy get stranded. So fortunately that didn't happen. Yeah. So yeah, it was all the responsibility was going to fall on Sadie, who heaven help her. I don't know if putting responsibility on that girl, I'm not sure how that would work out. But she impresses you sometimes when it matters. All right, well, let's get this show started. So, all right, so welcome to the Two Geoffs podcast. This is episode number 2. The Two Geoffs podcast, listened by scores of people across multiple countries and multiple continents. Me and Geoff kind of looked at the data that we got from the show listenings from the various outlets, and we were pretty shocked and surprised by how many people actually tuned in and listened last week. So thank you, everybody. And I'm guessing we get like 33 people this time.
Well, is this going to be our sophomore drop? I'm very impressed that we made it to 2 episodes.
Yeah, I was thinking this is a big commitment on our hands where we're really stepping up and showing how much of adults we are.
Yeah, when you said, hey, let's do a podcast, I was all gung-ho. And I wasn't sure we were going to make it past 1 episode.
We're on episode 2. We've doubled our own expectations.
That's right. It's all uphill from here now, right?
Yeah. Of course, we haven't finished yet.
That's
all right. So anyways, this is my pick. This was my pick. By the way, the Two Geoffs podcast, basically Geoff and I have a love for podcasts and talking about podcasts. So we're sharing so many podcasts with each other. We thought, why don't we just record our conversations and make a podcast of our own? So we pick a different podcast every week. Actually, it's every 2 weeks. And this week was my pick. I chose probably one of my favorite podcasts, Baseball by the Book. And I chose my second favorite episode of theirs that I had listened to. And it's called September 1918. Baseball by the Book is a podcast where Justin McGuire, interviews authors of baseball books, and they talk about the book that was written, but it's not just about the book. They talk about the writing process, the research process, why they wrote the book. And so it's podcasts that can be enjoyed by writers in general because they talk about the overall writing process. And so I like it because as a big baseball fan, especially a baseball fan of any baseball that's like 1920s and earlier, I'm a huge fan of 19th century baseball. And there's a lot of podcasts that he does and shows that talks about these early baseball players and how the game was played back then. And so I'm a huge fan of the podcast. So this particular podcast, September 1918. Geoff, do you want to do it? I did a breakdown of the podcast show. You want to do the episode, breakdown of the episode?
Yeah, the episode is about the 1918 season. 2, 3, 4. Tessie, nothing but gravy shot it. We're not here to mess around. Boston, you know we love you like we hear the crowd roar to your sound. Don't blame us if we ever doubt you. You know we couldn't live without you. Tessie, you are the only. They're in the midst of the Spanish flu, so very comparable to what we're going through right now. The tie-ins between 1918 and 2020 and how they talk about it in this podcast, which was recorded in 2018, are shocking when you really dig into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I first listened to this podcast, I think it was probably in November or January or something like that of last year or early this year before the pandemic really hit. And they were talking about this Spanish flu that was going on. And a couple months later, blew my mind that I was like, whoa, I was just learning about this.
We're also in the midst of World War I. You know, all the able men were having to work or fight. And baseball tried to get an exclusion as being entertainment, as actors and playwrights and stuff were getting, and weren't having to sign up. And they said, well, you have until September. You know, we got a shortened season. What are we playing, 60 games this year in the MLB? You can play out your season until September, and then everyone's got to sign up, got to enlist. But I mean, you're the history teacher, right?
Yeah, I think I taught World War I like maybe 12 years ago. So relearning it is really cool because the one cool thing about history is like, you know, you learn about World War I, but like some people are going to focus on the war, some people are going to focus on, you know, the politics. And it was really cool, and it shows you that in history, you really could find something you love in almost any situation, because here we are talking about how baseball and World War I interacted. So it was just a whole nother look at a war that I had studied for years, and it brought a special baseball twist to it. And so, yeah, this podcast has kind of 3 prongs to it, and it's funny. There's so much going on, like listening to the author talk about everything that the book was about was crazy, because he bounces from topic to topic to topic to topic. And I'm like, this is like a crazy Seinfeld episode where like there's so much going on, and he's weaving in Boston in all these stories because Boston's a feature player in the book. And so it was really cool to kind of see it all come together. So there's 3 things to break down. There's the epidemic, the pandemic, the Spanish flu. There's World War I itself, and then there's the World Series in baseball, what's going on. You know, talking about the flu, which, you know, the Spanish flu killed close to, maybe some people are saying 50 million people. Now, COVID is nowhere near that, and you could argue it's because of the actions we've taken. Some people argue because it's not as serious as the Spanish flu. Some people might argue it's because of medical advancements. But the Spanish flu hit in the midst of a war, and the war basically was like fuel to a pandemic fire, because you have the Spanish flu hitting everywhere. All countries are getting hit by the Spanish flu. And in the middle of a war, anyone who knows anything about the army, it's like, you know, that you have many soldiers living right next to each other. And so this flu that actually started in Kansas and then spread to Europe and then came back to America and mutated to this giant beast of what it became, first hit Boston, the United States. And it was evident very quickly that this was a major problem. And, you know, when fighting a war and people coming and going and marching close together and living in tight living quarters, I mean, there was no way to quarantine. There was no way to social distance. The medical experts did their best to do it, but it was just impossible, involving what they were doing with the war at that time. People had to go to factories to build the war machine, because if we didn't do it and the other side did, we would lose, they would win. So we had to kind of play a game of poker, you know, have our poker face going, saying everything is fine. And so the Spanish flu is just erupting, not only in the United States, but throughout the world. And so it makes you think about the epidemic we're going through. And I know people like to make fun of 2020 being so terrible. But when you listen to this podcast and you learn about the Spanish flu and you're thinking, well, at least there's not a world war going on right now, you come to kind of put things in perspective. And it's like,
hold on.
Go for it.
You need to knock on wood right now. In 2020, you can't tempt fate and talk about a world war. You know?
That's true. We almost did it.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's been close calls. So
yeah.
We could talk about the comparisons between the Spanish flu and COVID, but let's not tempt fate, okay?
Well, I think, okay, so, you know, I think about like how 2020 has affected people, okay? Mm-hmm. And I'm very thankful that the numbers are nowhere near, the COVID numbers are nowhere near the Spanish flu numbers. And I think about like the poor kids who graduated this year. Some of my favorite students of all time graduated this year, either high school or college. And I've seen all sorts of graduation celebrations. I've seen families doing the best they can to celebrate these kids. And I've been seeing a lot of the posts that are like, so sad for these kids. And then you listen to this and then you think about, okay, you didn't go to your graduation, but you don't have to sign up for the draft to go fight in Europe. So it's like, you know, I think that when you learn history, you develop, you begin to appreciate what you do have. To say, no, like, you know, this is bad, but it could be a lot worse. And in fact, if you look at history, it has been a lot worse than what we're experiencing right now. We have the ability to social distance the best we can. We have the ability to move a lot of businesses and jobs online instead of into the factories to make things worse. And
well, there was no working from home.
No,
the internet wasn't even a thought in anybody's mind. There was no Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
So you had to go to work or you starved.
Yeah. So we have the potential to fight this COVID that they didn't have that opportunity back then. And so I think that's an argument for us to keep trying to do the best we can to continue to social distance, wear masks, et cetera. If we do these little things, you know, that is an opportunity that a past generation in 1918 didn't have that opportunity. And
that's where we may disagree.
Go for it.
Social distancing is great. Quarantining is great. But we don't quarantine the healthy. I think anyone that's at high risk, because let's not get too crazy. Yeah, the Spanish flu was a horrible disease that killed everybody, especially the young and healthy. Mm-hmm. Where COVID seems to be, you know, killing older people, 65 plus, are at the greatest risk.
So I will say this, though, is you have this threshold of how serious you should be taking this. But we have to keep in mind, everybody has a lowest common denominator in their life. And so I, might be able to avoid getting it, or I might be able to get it and easily fight it. But if there's someone in my life, like the elderly, or somebody who's at a higher risk, I need to be watching out for those people. So, we don't want to quarantine the healthy, but to your point, yes, I don't think you want to fully quarantine the healthy. However, I would say that you have to just be mindful. So when we go out, because we go out all the time, we go to the beach, we go here, we go there, we've been on vacation, we've been all around, we're by no means quarantine ourselves because we're healthy, but we take every precaution we can to protect those who can be harmed. So I agree.
And I think we've proven that taking some precaution is fine. Mm-hmm. Wearing your mask. I hate those masks, but you wear your mask outside when you go into a store, or you don't need to wear it when you're walking the street by yourself. You're walking around your neighborhood. I don't believe that. Yeah,
like people in their cars who are wearing a mask just by themselves, and it's just like.
I saw a meme yesterday that had me dying, and it was like, I just know somebody's wearing a mask while they're showering right now.
I think I saw that one. That's nice.
And it has become a political point. If you're on the left, you love the masks. If you're on the right, you see the masks as oppression.
Right, because everything has to be polarized, right?
Oh, and in 2020, of course, yes.
Yeah, everything has to be polarized.
That is how I feel, though. I don't think this whole lockdown was the way to go about it. I think nobody knew anything about this disease, and the politicians who are in power, they had to react fast, because otherwise now they look like, oh, well, you didn't react if it turns bad.
Well, and if you look at history, the problem was the politicians, they threw out the Alien and Sedition Act, which, by the way, there's been multiple Alien and Sedition Acts. None of them have fared well when we look at them historically. They all make the people who created them look like horrible, horrible people. Well, anyways, they did everything they could to suppress knowledge so that people didn't even know what was going on. So the politicians made things worse back then.
I think this is where most people, and it's probably more people on the right, who don't trust the government to start out with. You tell us it's 15 days and you guys stay inside and we'll be good. The curve will get flattened, which was all in an effort not to overwhelm the hospitals, right?
Right.
So that we had anybody who really did get sick could still go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Well, 15 days passed and they started to lighten up. And then they said, no, we liked it the way it was. Started pushing more restrictions.
You have I might have COVID story, though. I might have had COVID story, right?
Oh, yeah. I have, just about everybody nowadays has I think I had COVID before COVID was here. The cool time is now to say, oh, I had it in October.
I had it in September.
Yeah, I think it was November, late November, early December. I came down with the worst flu symptoms I've ever had.
Yeah.
It knocked me out for a good 10 days. And even, my wife stays, she's like, if you don't get out of bed to go to work, that's when I know you're sick.
Yeah.
And I called him and said, I don't know when I'm going to be back. I'll call you when I'm coming in the next day.
Yeah.
But it was just after Thanksgiving, just before Christmas. I was down. I was sweating, fever. And I went to the urgent care about 8 days in. And I was like, this isn't going away. And they told me, no tests, no nothing. They listened to my chest. They said, you don't have the flu. And I was like, oh, okay. It's some sort of chest infection or something. But that's all they said. You don't have the flu.
Yeah.
Just go home, drink lots of fluids. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what I did. I ate soup for another, 4 or 5 days, and I got over it. But that's the story I like to tell when everyone's telling their I had COVID before COVID was cool story. I'm like, no. But I have not gotten the antibody test because I'm afraid that it'll tell me I didn't have COVID.
And then you lost your glory.
Yeah, then my cool story is gone. So
yeah, same here, man. I got sick. Now I wasn't as early as you. I got sick in March, and
that's prime COVID time.
Well, yeah, it was right before my birthday. Maybe it was February. It was right before my birthday, and I was, like you said, described sick as possible. My wife's reminding me that I was saying I couldn't breathe, and it was before the doctors knew a lot about COVID. So same thing. He went with the assumption, because I didn't have everything to check off their box. He says, I don't think you have COVID. And so he said, just go home, feel better. But like you said, I was as sick as I've ever been. Now, I don't fully trust that doctor because, like I said, he didn't run any tests on me. He just kind of said, you're fine. And also, by the way, when I asked for a referral for a vasectomy, he actually just gave me a coupon for a weed whacker and then said, go do this. So I don't think that guy.
This is easier. Yeah.
I don't think that guy had my best interest in play.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the 1918 World Series was really interesting, though, because we're talking.
Oh, yeah, that's right. This is about a baseball podcast, isn't it?
Podcast. Like, you learn a little bit about more from the podcast. There was almost a player strike in the middle of the World Series. Could you imagine today two World Series teams saying we're not going to play? We're going to strike in the middle of a World Series because, the owners are not paying them enough money because there was a war going on and the owners couldn't generate enough money. So there was almost a player strike during the 1918 World Series.
Well, they were only getting – every player was getting a percentage of ticket sales, right?
Right.
It wasn't here, you get, $1,000 to play each game or whatever. It was however many tickets are sold, you get 126.
Yeah.
Which to me, I'm thinking, now players are making millions of dollars per game. How far have we come?
Yeah. Back then, the owners really didn't know how much money they were going to make. Baseball was doing well, but with the war, it wasn't. And also, you look like, the war was affecting the World Series so much. The Cubs' best player, Grover Cleveland Alexander, Pete Alexander, he was fighting in the trenches during the World Series. He wasn't even there. So, going back to our conversation about, like, as bad as 2020 is, it's not 1918. The best Cubs player was off fighting, and he came home after that war, and he was never the same. He and a bunch of other baseball players after World War I fell into alcoholism, and they just never were able to recoup. And some of the legends of the game really took a dark turn after World War I. World War I was one of those moments in history that proved that we as humans developed technology to kill each other faster than we can heal each other. That's why the fatalities in World War I were so high, because we had the invent of the machine, or the improvements of the machine gun, gas, mustard gas, planes coming at you. These are all advanced trench warfare. All of these were occurring, and people had it was proof.
I don't know if trench warfare was an advancement.
Well, it was.
I think it was just hey, I'm going to hold this line. If you can't see me,
yeah,
you can't shoot me, but you can't get past this point either. Machine guns have been around for a while, or
you're the gun
or guns that would fire multiple rounds in a short burst.
Mm-hmm.
But I do agree. Yeah, it's easier to invent something that would kill somebody than it is to heal somebody.
Yeah, and knock on wood, like you said, that we don't have to. Nothing escalates. But
are you gonna tell me alcoholism is not a thing in 2020?
Yeah. Well, think about like Pat Tillman leaving the NFL to go fight.
Yes.
that was
Right.
one. There were many athletes that went and fought, but that's the one that we think of. It jumps to our mind. In 1917 or 1918,
Everybody.
you know, you had to either, like you said, fight, enlist, sign up for the draft, or get a job that directly supported the war. And so, you know, that doesn't happen. I mean, you watch documentaries about World War One. People do not dedicate their lives to war efforts and sacrifice what they did back then anymore. It's, you know, like one thing I learned from this episode is, as bad as this year has been, you know, we have it much better than the people in the past. The people in the past, they were tough and they were rough. They got through some crazy stuff.
Can't disagree with that.
We're talking about tradition versus change. And in baseball in 1918, there was a major change happening in baseball. There's major changes happening in baseball right now. We got the designated hitter in the National League. We've got robot umpires coming. We have all these changes happening, and traditionalists like you and me are going to be like, I don't like seeing the DH in the NL. I don't hate it as much as I thought I would, but I still don't like it. To me, if you're a pitcher or if you're a player on a baseball team, you should be able to grab a bat and swing at it. And I know a lot of people, their argument is, I don't like seeing pitchers hit. I want to see a batter hit. I want to see someone who can hit. I love seeing a pitcher suck at hitting, and I love seeing them strike out. I think that's great. I think it's part of the game.
I love, and not only that, but I love when they hit a home run, or when it's, you know, the bottom of the seventh, 2 on, you're down by 1, and they get a single.
Yeah. Or exactly, like Tom Glavine, Madison Bumgarner. You talk about, you know, good hitting pitchers like this, and it's a small, tiny part of the game that I find to be exciting. Now, if somebody wants to say they love the DH, you know, they're okay with their opinion. I'm okay with my opinion. It's nothing worth arguing about. But and I see their point of view. I just happen to love seeing a pitcher hit, and I like the idea of, if you're on the team, you hit. And so, anyways, we have all this stuff changing right now. And in 1918, there was somebody who was kind of the epitome of baseball change, and that was Babe Ruth. And Babe Ruth plays an important part of the 1918 World Series. 1918 was the first year he started hitting and playing the field and not just pitching and sitting down for a few days. And I think that's a great argument for not having the DH, because I mean, we've got some two-way players like Shohei Ohtani, Cronenworth of the Padres. They were talking about having that guy be a pitcher. He's crushing the ball right now. And so I think not having a DH, having a guy who can hit in there is phenomenal. Babe Ruth was a pitcher converting to a hitter in the 1918 World Series. What do you think about baseball tradition versus change, Geoff?
I think tradition is great. I think, you know, obviously I've told everybody I don't want to see the DH in the National League. That is, if we had the DH in the National League, you might as well call it the American League. And then what's the World Series? The World Series has always been National League, American League. But we're just one league at that point. And why don't we just play 182 games? And whoever has the best record at the end, that's it. There's no need for a World Series. I want to see an American League pitcher come to a National League field and have to hit the ball.
Yeah.
Have to, you know, stand in there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you talk DH too, a pitcher in the American League can throw at any batter he wants with no recourse. You know, yeah, maybe his teammate's going to get hit the next inning, but he doesn't have to fear anything. Mm-hmm. And that's probably my biggest DH counterpoint, is I want that pitcher to fear having a little pain, getting a little, you know, fastball up in the ribs.
Yeah. There's all this talk about these baseball unwritten rules. And I think one of the trends is to say, you know, that these unwritten rules are ridiculous. But here's the thing. I think most of the unwritten rules are ridiculous, but I love that they exist. I love that there is somebody like Madison Bumgarner yelling at the other team because they did something that they didn't even know they weren't supposed to do. I love that there's somebody still in the game trying to keep tradition back in the game, that there's some old man on the pitcher's mound yelling, "Get off my lawn." I think that's great. Even if they're wrong, there's people getting yelled at. Like Tatis hitting a grand slam on a 3-0 pitch because they're winning and he's getting complained at. I think it's ridiculous that they're complaining at him. However, I love that somebody is doing it.
But you do realize that all the unwritten rules, I'm going to say 95% of unwritten rules are in the pitcher's favor.
Yeah.
You don't swing 3-0 after the 6th inning because the pitcher might get his feelings hurt.
Yeah.
No. You just threw 3 crap-ass balls. You got to 3-0, and now you want me to let you pipe one down the middle just to get your confidence back? No, swing away, Tatis.
Yeah. I thought that was great. This Tatis, you talk about tradition versus change. He has changed. He's exciting for the game. He should keep doing what he's doing, but I still love that there's people complaining about it because there's this dichotomy and this struggle and fighting of baseball where there's this push for change while trying to hold on to the history and the past tradition. And it's always been like that. You go all the way back to Babe Ruth in 1918, and you look at his antics that's going on off the field and all the crazy stuff he's doing and all the home runs he's hitting. And you could just think about the old timers complaining about how he's changing the game. And so you have this desire to keep baseball what it is, which you and me right now, we're traditionalists. We want to keep baseball what it is. But then there's this change happening, and there's this struggle and this fighting, and there's both sides tugging war. And it goes all the way back to the 1800s when, there would be a rule on, should it be strike 3 or should it be strike 4? And they would argue and fight. And I love that this still happens in baseball, that there's change, but with the argument of traditionalism. And so, you and I are...
It doesn't let it change too fast.
Right.
It doesn't go straight to robot umpires.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so eventually there's going to be robot umpires. And I think out of all the drastic changes that are coming, that's one I'm okay with. I'm okay with maybe strikes and balls, robot umpires. But I'm okay with it. I don't say I like it because we're going to lose the catcher framing the balls. We're going to lose kind of the human component of the umpire, for better and for worse. But I'll be okay.
Then why have a catcher behind the plate?
I love that after over 100 years of baseball, we're still talking about how to make it better.
Next podcast, we've already decided. It's Agenda 21. We're going to talk about that. But when I get to pick again, we're going for a Second Amendment one.
Nice.
You better stop with those liberal talking points of everybody doing their part, okay?
Well, the funny thing is
the First Amendment says I don't have to do anything. Second Amendment.
I'm surprised you jumped straight to the Second Amendment. I thought that was your favorite. I thought your favorite was.
No. Second Amendment is my favorite. Yeah.
I feel like next week's episode is going to be like back in college when I was completely unprepared for a large task I was supposed to take on.
Oh.
The funny thing is, though, I'm the one who votes libertarian.
Yeah.
I'm the one that supports the government, but I can just see the
libertarians are just undecided Republicans, all right?
We used to be Republican, but then we're like, this is the best you have to offer us, Republicans? Well, I definitely can't be that. So I'm going to this other world called libertarianism.
Well, since I know very little, but libertarians are the ones that believe that we shouldn't need a driver's license, right?
Libertarians believe we shouldn't have a government practice.
Oh, I'm a libertarian. I'm totally libertarian.
Yeah, libertarians are like, if I can think it or dream it, I should be able to do it.
I think I can't disagree with that.
Yeah, well, I kind of tend to be more like that, but also my ability to be able to hear the liberals and hear them say, this is a real problem that nobody's doing anything about, and we have actual people that need help, and me being able to be like, you know what, you're right. Sometimes the government actually should be doing something to help people when, in fact, actually sometimes the government specifically does things to hurt certain people. I love anyone who is supporting the liberal cause in America today, who's trying to fight for those who are disenfranchised. We need that in America.
Well, of course, we should be doing something to help those who can't help themselves.
And I also appreciate those who are keeping a watch on the freedoms that can be lost by an overarching government. We need those people too.
I think this country and its, the Constitution wasn't built to go anywhere. It was built so that no one party or no one section of government could take control. So they're always stuck in the mud.
Right.
You can't enforce your will. Congress, as long as it's somewhat close to 50-50, maybe the Republicans have a little bit of a lead, maybe not. They can't make a decision, and they'll never be able to make a decision.
My warning is, don't just go with what your team says. If you think that if you think that the Republicans are going to keep you from an overarching powerful government, guess what? They have just as much ability to abuse power as the left does, and they do. And so
that's probably why I'm a single issue voter now.
Yeah.
And
if that's the gun, I'm going to vote for it.
All in the Second Amendment. Don't mess with my guns. You can do whatever else you want. I don't care.
All right, I got to get going pretty soon.
You want to take a stand? You ever